Well, welcome back to 40 Days with Henry. Today's passage is March 3rd. I hope that you've been enjoying this journey. And again, as I said before, if there is something that seems to strike you or just cause you to ponder or reflect, I'd love to hear about it. I'd love to know how these videos are blessing you. So please feel free to send me an email or contact me. The title for today is God's Faithfulness and Ours. Henry writes, "When God makes a covenant with us, God says, 'I will love you with an everlasting love. I will be faithful to you, even when you run away from me, reject me, or betray me.' In our society, we don't speak much about covenants. We speak about contracts. When we make a contract with a person, we say, 'I will fulfill my part as long as you fulfill yours. When you don't live up to your promises, I no longer have to live up to mine.' Contracts are often broken because the partners are unwilling or unable to be faithful to their terms. But God didn't make a contract with us. God made a covenant. And God wants our relationship with one another to reflect that covenant. This is why marriage, friendship, and life in community are all ways to give visibility to God's faithfulness in our lives together." I love that play between a covenant and a contract. And I think that's probably something I'm just going to hold on to a little bit because, it's true. Contracts are so impersonal, aren't they? We'll just sign on the dotted line, and usually contracts convey a certain stipulation that if you break that contract, this is what's going to happen. There's this fabulous scene in Genesis, and it's the covenant of Abraham. And if you know the story where this is where God kind of gives him the promises, and what Abraham needs to do is, make a sacrifice, and then divide the animal in half. And then what he sees in this vision is that this kind of flaming pot from heaven passes through the pieces of the animal. And that's what's happening. Now, in the society of that time, that was kind of how you did contracts. Right? You would make a sacrifice and you would split the animals in two, and then each party would walk through. And the idea was that, well, may it be to me if I don't fulfill my contract. May I be like this carcass. It's quite a dramatic kind of thing. But see, that's the difference between the contracts and the covenant, because in the covenant that God makes, God takes both sides. God takes the ownership, all the ownership of truth and faithfulness and promise. And God is faithful even if we're not. That's the heart of a covenant. And I like that language between the covenant and the contract. Because God won't break God's covenant with us. God won't step outside of God's promise to love and to forgive, and to be there for us. And so it's a beautiful image that Henry puts forward. But it's also challenging, because where he goes from this is, I think quite rightly, and it's a kind of a soft challenge, because Nouwen's a soft kind of guy. But it is a real challenge then for us to embody that covenant in our relationships, right? So if we receive this unyielding promise of God, of God's love and God's faithfulness, then how do we live that out? See, that's the challenge. And so Nouwen says, but God didn't make a contract with us. God made a covenant. And God wants our relationships with each other to reflect that reality. And as we continue on in our Christian life, trying to be the image of Jesus in this world, and to show forth the light of Christ in this world, it makes sense, therefore, that we would then embody that sense of covenant. So the question then in, he says, marriages, friendships, and life in community is, how do we show forth our faithfulness, even when somebody isn't faithful to us? How do we show forth our love for another, even if somebody doesn't love us? How do we show forth our capacity for forgiveness and for grace, even if somebody isn't gracious to us? You know, it can be so easy just to rest back on the world of contracts, to say, well, you hurt me, I'm going to hurt you. I'm going to give you your just deserts. But the call of Christ is completely different. And that's what I think this is pointing us to. So think about that as you continue on. How might you continue to embody faithfulness, love, grace, and forgiveness in your life and to the people around you? God bless you as you continue on in your journey of Lent, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.